Hi guys, welcome back. I created a really cool magical symbol for the summer solstice, otherwise known as Litha or Midsummer, and I wanted to share it with you today if you haven't been to my Etsy store and seen it yet. And I'm also going to show you how I created it, so stay tuned. Okay, stick around till the end, and I also made you a summer solstice spell, and I have a printable sheet with the image on it so that you guys can make your own candle. It's going to be a magical summer solstice. I'm Mickie Mueller. Welcome to my studio. Okay, so those of you who follow me on Facebook or Instagram and Pinterest, I have been making these new magical symbols for all of the Sabbats this year. I started with Ostara, which is also known as the spring equinox. And this is the one that I made for that. Let me bring it in for you. And the next one that I did was the one that I made for Beltane. It's this one. And I changed that one a little bit when the finished piece. I kind of edited it a little bit digitally, which I do sometimes. So I had so much fun creating those pieces, and the summer solstice was coming up, and I decided I think I want to do one for summer solstice. Actually, I'm going to make one for every Sabbath this year, but that was just kind of my jumping off place for those pieces. So anyway, I did create one for the summer solstice, and I want to show you guys how I did it. So the first step for me for these is deciding what symbolism that I want to use for these symbols, or they're kind of like sigils, although sigils are slightly different. And I'll go into some sigil magic later on in some of the other videos, but these are symbols that I create just for the Sabbats, the equinoxes and the solstices, and then the cross quarters. So there's 8 of them, and I'll probably also do a video on the Wheel of the Year at some point. So we talked a little bit about the Wheel of the Year in my Beltane video, and as the wheel turns, it brings us around to the next Sabbat, which is Litha, otherwise known as the summer solstice, and some people call it midsummer. So Litha is a really magical time of the year. It's the longest day of the year, the time when the daytime, the sun is up the longest, and it's the shortest night. We associate this day with all kinds of things, among them fairy magic, as William Shakespeare wrote about in his play, A Midsummer Night's Dream. We also associate it with power, energy. The growth season is at its height. It's when everything is just like full of life, and life in general is at its height. Everything is very powerful during the summer solstice. One of the other legends about the summer solstice is also associated with the winter solstice. We talk about the battle of the Oak King and the Holly King. And here they are. These are the cards that I created for the well-worn path and the hidden path. And here you can see them. There we go. It's got a little bit of reflection there. This is the Oak King, and this is the Holly King, and they're brothers. Now, these two brothers, you know, they're brothers, so they get into these little battles from time to time, and it just so happens that one battle happens at the summer solstice, and one battle happens at the winter solstice. At the summer solstice, that is actually when the Oak King relinquishes his crown to the Holly King. The Oak King's time is a time of growth, the time that the sun is getting higher and higher and higher in the sky. So the summer solstice is his big day, his big hurrah, his last hurrah, when he is at the height of his power. At the end of the battle, the Oak King passes the crown of the year on to the Holly King, because this is the time of the year after the summer solstice when the days begin to get shorter and shorter and shorter, and eventually we find ourselves back at the winter solstice, when they battle yet again and the crown is passed on to the Oak King. We usually think about the oak in the summertime because that's when the oak is at its height. And then in the wintertime, we think of the holly because the oak, of course, has dropped all of its leaves, having gone into shadow, and the holly, which is an evergreen tree, still thrives. So that is the battle of the Oak King and the Holly King. And they're a metaphor for what's happening in the natural world. It's a very old metaphor, and that's one of the stories that we use to explain the cycles of the seasons. So two of the symbols that I knew I wanted to include in this magical symbol sigil, if you will, to celebrate and to represent the summer solstice were the sun, obviously, because the sun is at its height. So I definitely wanted to represent the sun. And then I also wanted to represent the oak, to give my nod to the Oak King, who is at his height and passing the crown on. So I wanted to represent those two symbols in this design that I came up with. So what I did first was I just started coming up with some sketches, and I'll show them to you guys so you can see kind of how the ideas progress. This was one, and I just did these on these little note cards. They were handy. Kind of playing with the idea of the sun and the oak. And I decided that I also wanted to include sunflowers, because the neat thing about sunflowers is they face their little faces and they follow the sun throughout the day. So when the sun rises, the sunflowers are all facing that direction. And then as the sun goes overhead, they follow the sun. Their little faces follow the sun. They're very heavily tied in with the sun and the growth season. And we also see them in the summertime. So I thought perfect three symbols to include for the summer solstice. So that was my first design. And then I played with some other ideas, playing around with some ideas like the Stonehenge idea, which I eventually nixed because I just wanted it to be more general and not specific to, you know, a specific tradition. So I decided to nix that one. And then I played around with the placement of the oak and what I wanted to include. And I decided to do an acorn and the oak leaves. And I like the idea of the sunflowers facing the sun. And then this was the third card that I did, and I really liked this one. So that's the one that I ended up going with. And as you can see, it's fairly rough, but that's what I do. I come up with the idea first, and I just kind of draw it out really rough. So the next thing that I did was I cleaned it up and worked on a piece of illustration board and drew it out very carefully and made everything nice and even and straight and artistically beautiful. And then after I did that, I went ahead and inked it, and I'll show you the process of how I inked it. You can see here that I use a template to create my nice round shapes, and I use my inking pens, which I want to tell you what kind I have, but I don't have them up here. I'll put a link in the description of what kind of inking pens that I use for most of my illustration work for you guys. And anyway, you can see how I ink this. So once I was finished inking, this was what I ended up with. And that is the new piece. So the next thing that I did was I scanned that into my computer and clean it up digitally. I go in, and if there's any little mess ups or something, or I didn't get something quite even, I'll play with it around. I'll play around with it in Photoshop and clean it up and make it look nice and neat and clean. The same way that I do for illustrations that I do for Llewellyn to put in their books. I like to make it nice and clean. And then the next step, of course, is I print out my nice clean version of that, and I sit down with my colored pencils and I go ahead and fill in all the colors and kind of try to make it look as artistic as I can. For the summer solstice, I wanted to include traditional colors, colors that occur in nature, because again, I wanted to keep it not specific for different traditions. I want everybody to be able to use this. So whether you're, you know, Wiccan or just a straight up witch, or any version of paganism, whether you follow a Norse tradition or Italian tradition or Celtic tradition, if you're a Druid, this will work for your practice. And that's kind of my idea. I want to make something that everybody can use and enjoy. So that was how it turned out. And here it is, completed. Now I did a thing after I was finished with it. I said to myself, I kind of wish that you could really see that the sun was at the top of that circle more, because that's what I want to express in this design, is that the sun is at its height. I decided to alter this a little bit digitally after I finished it, as I am known to do. But we use all the tools that we have, you know. So I went ahead and scanned the color version one more time, and I altered the sun by shrinking it down a little bit and then bringing it up higher. I also tilted it because I wasn't crazy about that big spike coming down here. I just thought that the balance was nicer. I included the 4 swirls in there to show energy building, and also to represent the fact that this is a quarter. It's the 4 seasons that we talk about: the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the spring equinox, and the fall equinox. So I wanted the 4s represented in this. That was one of the reasons that you might have noticed that in some of my earlier designs that I show the 3, and I decided that I thought that 4 swirls was a better representation of the energy of the season, because there are the 4 solstices and equinoxes, and it just made sense to me. And I just listen to spirit and do what makes sense. So that was what I ended up doing. But this is the finished piece, as you can see. We're having a lot of fun with this piece. My husband loves it whenever I make a new one of these, because then he can put it on all kinds of fun things. I don't know if you can see this here. Let's see. Here it is. These are really cool. They're little, and again, it's picking up the light, but if you can see it, the way it shimmers in the sunlight is really cool. This is a mother of pearl piece, and it's on there solid. We use our dye sublimation process to make these, and they're really cool. I'm gonna have him make me one of these for every Sabbath as I do the designs. So I just kind of like having something special that I can wear that remind me throughout the day of the importance of it, and that way I can bring a little bit of the energy of the day into everything that I do. So the truth is, I guess these designs are kind of selfish, because a lot of times I just make stuff that I like, and I hope that when I make them that you guys like them too. So that's kind of how I do it. If you visit my Etsy store, and I'll put a link up here for my Etsy store, if you go, which I've never done that before, so we'll see how that works out. I don't know what I'm doing, but in theory I can make that happen, so watch for it. If I can perform the magic spell to make the link appear, like I think I can. If you go there, you'll find that we have this design that I've created for the summer solstice is on garden flags, and it's on necklaces like this. We put them on some wall hangings that you can have on your wall, just kind of add a little bit of fun to your summer, a little bit of magic to your summer. Of course, you know me, I had to make you guys a spell as well. So I have a candle spell for you. I made you a candle spell. So it's really easy. It's just another one of these little printouts, and I put the link in the description so you can click it and grab your free download for that. Which I will also include the incantation that goes along with it on the printout, but I'll also put that in the description as well, just to make it easy for you guys, so you have everything that you need if you want to do the spell with me on the summer solstice. I'll show you how to do it today though. Okay, so the first thing that you do is just print the sheet out, choose one of the candle labels that you like for whatever size. I've got 2 sizes there, so if you like I want a bigger candle or smaller candle, don't glue these right on the candle. Put it on a jar, kind of the jar style candle holder, and just cut that out. Apply it with a glue stick to the jar of your choice. And then your candle jar is made. In this one, I'm using a tea light candle just because that's what I have handy. If you have those little spell chime candles and you want to use that, that's just as easy to do. Whatever candle you like, use that. So yeah, it's relatively flexible. Ideally, a yellow candle, a gold candle, or a white candle, because gold and yellow are associated with the summer solstice and the sun and power and energy and growth and ba-bam. And the white candle, because a white candle can be substituted for any color candle, so easy peasy. Anoint your candle with your sunflower oil if you have sunflower oil. I have to admit that I did not have sunflower oil. I thought I had sunflower oil when I wrote the spell, and then I realized I was all out. But sunflower oil makes sense, obviously, because we're talking about the sun and the sunflowers are on the candle, but that's life. We don't always have the stuff that we need in the house. So alternately, you may use whatever kind of oil that you have. If you have a solar oil that you like maybe a cinnamon or something like that, you can use it. If you have a summer solstice oil that's specifically blended for celebrating the summer solstice, use that. I used olive oil because that's what I had on hand. And then just sprinkle it with your herbs. I used cinnamon. As you can see, I made a nice mess with the cinnamon and it came out in a big blob, so I just kind of spread it around. We don't stress out about these things. We don't worry if everything isn't perfect. We just do the best we can in life, because that's all we're doing. We're just trying to get by. And then the ground cinnamon, and that had a little shaker, so that made it a little easier for me to sprinkle the ground cinnamon on there and then drop it into your candle jar, which I have right here. There's mine all completed. So what you're going to want to do for this spell is imagine your personal power. Your personal power comes from your solar plexus. Hang on, I'll show you where that is on your body. All right. If your belly button's here and your heart is here, your solar plexus is right around the middle, so it's right about here. And that's where you want to envision energy kind of swirling around there, and it's yellow energy. That's the color of that chakra, okay? So you're going to envision that yellow chakra energy just spinning and glowing and getting all full of energy. That's where your seat of your personal power is. Okay, so when you do that, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to light your candle while you're imagining that solar energy flowing all around. Try not to burn yourself while you do that. All right, and this is just a simple candle spell. Now, as you're visualizing that energy coming from your solar plexus, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to envision another yellow energy, and that is the energy of our yellow sun. Coming from above and going into your candle. All right, just envision that becoming one with your candle, and then all of those energies becoming one with your solar plexus. And as you do that, that yellow energy spinning around in the middle of your body. As you do that, you're going to charge the whole thing with your intention. And I have the incantation for you to do that. And this is how it goes. Star of the day, shining on high, now at your zenith, the time is nigh. Awaken the power deep inside of me. Bring it out, make it shine for all to see. I call down the sun for my power to bless. I believe in myself and embrace my success. As I will it, so mote it be. And just visualize all of your power being connected to the sun at its zenith. and drawing that energy in. It's a great way to embrace your personal power and give yourself a boost when you need it. So all you need to do is just leave this someplace where it can burn out. I'm going to set it over here on my little altar. And there's your very fun, easy way to celebrate the summer solstice. You don't have to have a big coven to celebrate the summer solstice. You don't have to go to Stonehenge, though I would love to go to Stonehenge, but you don't have to celebrate the summer solstice. All you really need is the sun, which is above your head. That's really all you need. This little candle magic spell is a little extra bonus for you guys today. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that when I post new videos, you'll know. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment. I love to hear your comments. Makes me super happy. Can't help it. I just love comments. So drop me a line. Let me know what you thought. Tell me what your plans are for the summer solstice. You might have big plans. Are you going on a picnic? We used to go down to the lake. That was always a lot of fun. Not sure what we're doing this year. I don't think we have any plans. I'm going to a concert the day before, and then we'll see from there. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a very happy summer solstice, and I will see you next time. Blessed be.